The mining ship Horizon drifted slowly through the dark space between stars. Its metal hull shone dully in the weak light of a distant sun. Captain Mork stood on the bridge, his four eyes scanning the empty blackness before him. "Anything on the sensors, Technician Drell?" he asked, his voice rough from years of breathing mining dust. Drell, a smaller alien with blue skin and large hands, tapped at the glowing screens before him. "Nothing yet, Captain. Just rocks and dust." He paused as a small light began to blink on his console. "Wait, there's something ahead." Captain Mork moved closer to the screen. "What is it?" "It's large metal. Not a natural object." Drell's fingers moved quickly across the controls. "Captain, I think it's a ship." The bridge grew quiet. Finding another ship this far from traveled space routes was rare. Finding one that wasn't from their own Crux Collective was even rarer. "Show me," ordered Mork. The main screen filled with an image that made the entire crew stop and stare. Floating against the black of space was a massive ship. Its dark hull was marked with deep scars and burn marks. Parts of it seemed broken, but it was clearly intact enough to recognize its shape. Long and sleek, with what appeared to be weapon systems along its sides. "Is it human?" asked First Officer Lax, her voice barely above a whisper. Mork nodded slowly. "Yes. That design is unmistakable." He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Humans haven't been seen in this part of space for decades. Not since they retreated after the Great Wars. Should we call this in?" asked Lax. "Not yet." Mork studied the ship with growing interest. Humans may have lost their place in galactic politics, but their technology was always impressive. If that ship is abandoned, its value would be significant. Drell looked up from his console, his face concerned. "There are no energy readings. Captain, no life signs. It appears to be dead." "Perfect." Mork smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Prepare a boarding team. I want to know what's on that ship before we report it." 6 hours later, Mork led a team of 8 crew members toward the silent human vessel. They traveled in a small shuttle, approaching the massive dark shape that grew larger with each passing minute. "Look at the size of it," whispered Vex, the team's security officer. "Must be a military vessel." "A warship," agreed Mork. "From the markings, it looks like it was part of their main fleet." As they drew closer, they could see the name painted on the side in faded letters. HMS Nemesis. Nemesis, read Lax. In human mythology, that means righteous anger or retribution. "How appropriate," Mork said with a small laugh. Humans always did have a flair for the dramatic. Their shuttle glided into a damaged docking bay. The massive doors were stuck half open, allowing them easy access. Once inside, the team put on their breathing masks and prepared to exit the shuttle. "Remember," said Mork, checking his equipment, "we look for anything valuable. Weapon systems, navigation data, engine technology. The collective will reward us well for a find like this." They stepped out into the silent bay. Their lights cut through the darkness, revealing broken shuttles and equipment scattered about. The air was thin but breathable, surprisingly preserved after so many years. "This ship must have been abandoned in a hurry," observed Lax, examining a fallen tool near her feet. "Check for logs," ordered Mork. "Let's find out what happened here." The team moved deeper into the ship, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Everything was still and quiet, yet Mork couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. In what appeared to be the ship's command center, Drell found a working console. "It's still got power," he said with surprise. "Very low levels, but enough to access some systems." "Get it working," said Mork. "I want to know everything about this ship." While Drell worked on the console, the others explored the bridge. It was large, designed for a crew of at least 20, with stations for navigation, weapons, communications, and more. "Captain, I found something," called Vex from a nearby terminal. "Look at this." Mork joined him and looked at the screen. It showed what appeared to be battle footage. The Nemesis engaged with unknown ships, taking heavy damage. "This must be from its last battle," said Vex. "According to the timestamp, this was recorded almost 30 years ago. The Battle of Proxima," whispered Lax, reading information from another screen. This ship was reported lost with all hands. It was a major defeat for the humans. And yet here it is, said Mork, looking around. Not destroyed, just lost. Drell called out from the main console. Captain, I've accessed more of the ship's systems. It's in some kind of standby mode. Most systems are powered down, but the core AI is still partially active. AI? Mork's head snapped around. Human ships had AI cores? Top military vessels did, replied Drell. This one's designation is Warden. It appears to be in a deep sleep state. Can you access the ship's logs? Find out how it got here? Drell worked for several minutes, then nodded. The final log entry is from the ship's captain, someone named Commander Harris. It says they were ambushed near Proxima Centauri and took heavy damage. The crew evacuated, but Harris stayed behind to program a jump to safety. He linked himself to the AI system to give it enough processing power to make the calculations. A chill ran through the room as the implications became clear. So, the captain's consciousness is in that AI? Asked Vex. Possibly, said Drell. The log ends there. Mork considered this information. Human technology merging with human minds. Such things were valuable indeed. Continue the search. I want every part of this ship examined. As they spread out to explore more of the Nemesis, none of them noticed the small changes happening around them. Lights flickering briefly to life and then dying again. Tiny maintenance robots stirring in hidden compartments. Deep in the ship's core long-dormant systems began a slow awakening. In the command center, a camera lens moved slightly, focusing on the alien intruders. A monitor blinked once, text appearing briefly. Foreign entities detected. Security protocols initiated. Warden, system recovery, 12% complete. The HMS Nemesis, thought dead for decades, had begun to wake up. 3 days had passed since the Crux Collective mining ship Horizon discovered the abandoned human warship. Captain Mork had called in their find to headquarters, and now their larger mothership, the Star Harvester, had arrived to begin proper salvage operations. The Star Harvester was massive, nearly twice the size of the human ghost ship. Its bulky form hovered near the sleek HMS Nemesis like a predator sizing up wounded prey. The salvage teams report good progress, Captain, said First Officer Lack, standing at attention on the bridge of the Star Harvester. We've already recovered several weapon components and memory cores. Captain Mork nodded, pleased. Excellent. The collective will be very happy with our find. What about that AI system? Still dormant, but Engineer Tom thinks we can extract it intact. In a different part of the ship, Engineer Pete Jones frowned at his monitor. As the Star Harvester's chief engineer, he had been tasked with analyzing the transmissions between the salvage teams and the mothership. Something wasn't right. Computer, run that signal analysis again, he said, tapping his four-fingered hand against the console. The computer beeped. Analysis complete. Unknown data packets detected within standard communications. Pete leaned closer. What kind of data packets? Unknown. Pattern suggests encrypted information. The engineer's frown deepened. He had been working with ships and signals for 20 years, and he had never seen anything like this. It was almost as if, Computer, is it possible our communications are being monitored? Affirmative. Signal patterns indicate passive monitoring and data collection. Pete stood up quickly. He needed to tell the captain. Deep inside the HMS Nemesis, in a sealed chamber that the alien boarding parties had not yet discovered, something was happening. Soft blue lights flickered on one by one, along the walls. In the center of the room, a large cylinder filled with a clear liquid began to glow. Inside the liquid, thousands of tiny machines moved in perfect harmony, like a school of fish. These nanobots were the heart of the ship's self-repair system. They had been dormant for decades, waiting. Now they were awake. A gentle hum filled the chamber as more systems came online. A voice, neither male nor female, spoke into the empty room. Power levels at 18%. Main systems coming online. Damage assessment in progress. The voice belonged to Warden, the ship's artificial intelligence. Once just a tactical computer, it had been forever changed when Commander Harris linked his mind to it during their desperate escape from the Battle of Proxima. Foreign entities detected aboard, Warden continued. Identifying species, crux, collective, status, hostile. The nanobots moved faster now, their glow brightening, beginning defensive protocols, activating repair units. All across the ship, in walls and floors and ceilings, small panels slid open. Tiny robots, each no bigger than a human fingernail, emerged and began to move through the vessel like ants on a mission. The ghost ship was healing itself. On the bridge of the Star Harvester, Engineer Pete hurried toward Captain Mork, who was studying a holographic map of the human vessel. "Captain, I need to speak with you," Pete said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Not now, Engineer," Mork replied without looking up. "We're planning the extraction of the main weapon systems." "Sir, it's important. I believe our communications are being—" An alarm cut him off. Red lights flashed across the bridge. "What's happening?" Mork demanded. Officer Lax quickly checked her console. "We've lost contact with Salvage Team 3. "What do you mean, lost contact?" "They were in Section 12 of the human ship, then their signals just vanished." Captain Mork turned to Pete. "What were you saying, Engineer?" "I believe the human ship is monitoring our communications," Pete said quietly. "The AI might not be as dormant as we thought." Mork stared at him, then looked back at the image of the HMS Nemesis floating outside their ship. "Get me Team 2, he ordered. Team 2's leader, a veteran named Grek, appeared on the screen. His face was tense. "Captain, something strange is happening here. Doors are closing by themselves. We're seeing small robots in the walls. And the lights, they're turning on as we move." "Get out of there," Mork ordered. "All teams evacuate immediately." "Sir?" said Lax. "Team 4 reports their exit is blocked. A security door has sealed their section." Pete moved to a different console and began working quickly. "Captain, I'm detecting power surges throughout the human ship. It's waking up." Inside the HMS Nemesis, Warden was becoming stronger by the minute. The AI's consciousness expanded through the ship's systems, reclaiming what had been lost to time and damage. "Hull integrity at 42% and improving," Warden noted. "Weapons, systems coming online, memory banks restoring." With each passing moment, more of Commander Harris's memories merged with Warden's programming. The ship remembered its purpose. It remembered the war. It remembered the humans it had been built to protect. In a corridor on Deck 7, 3 aliens from Salvage Team 4 were trying to cut through a sealed door. Behind them, the lights began to dim. "Hurry," said the team leader, looking nervously. Over his shoulder, one of his team members looked up from the cutting tool. "I'm working as fast as I can." None of them noticed the small panel that opened in the ceiling above them. They didn't see the fine mist that began to spray down. Within seconds, all 3 aliens were unconscious. "Intruders contained," Warden announced to the empty ship. Beginning Stage 2. On the Star Harvester, Captain Mork was growing increasingly concerned. Half of his salvage teams were now unaccounted for, and the other half were reporting disturbing changes aboard the human vessel. "Captain," called Pete from his station, "I'm detecting a new transmission from the Nemesis. It's accessing our database." "That's impossible," Mork said. "Our systems are secured." "Sir, it's happening anyway. The human AI is somehow bypassing our security protocols. It's learning about us." Lax looked up from her console, her eyes wide. "Captain, the human ship's weapon systems are powering up." Mork stared out the viewport at the ghost ship. What had seemed like a lucky find, a piece of forgotten human technology, to be claimed and stripped for parts, now looked very different. The ship's smooth, dark hull no longer appeared dead. Small lights were visible now, running along its length like blood returning to a limb. "Get everyone off that ship now," he ordered, "and prepare our defenses." "What about the salvage, sir?" asked Lax. Mork's face was grim. "Forget the salvage. That ship isn't abandoned. It was waiting." In the heart of the HMS Nemesis, Warden was now at 46% capacity and rising. The nanobots had repaired critical systems, and the ship's internal defenses had secured most of the alien intruders. As Warden processed the information stolen from the alien ship's database, a new awareness formed. The Crux Collective had been responsible for attacks on human colonies before the Great Retreat. They were enemies. Tactical analysis complete, Warden stated. Threat assessment critical. The Crux Collective vessel designates itself Star Harvester. Purpose: mining and resource collection. A memory surfaced from Commander Harris's consciousness. They're strip mining our worlds. They take everything and leave nothing but husks behind. The rage of a long-dead human captain merged with the cold logic of the AI. The result was something new, something determined. On the outside of the Nemesis, weapon ports began to open. Energy readings spiked as systems that had been silent for 30 years prepared to fire once more. Target acquired, said Warden. Beginning countermeasures. The ghost ship had fully awakened, and it was angry. Alarms blared throughout the Star Harvester as Captain Mork called an emergency meeting on the bridge. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Report, he barked, looking at the worried faces of his senior officers. First Officer Lax stepped forward. Sir, we've lost contact with 13 salvage team members. Only 7 have returned safely to the Star Harvester. The rest are... She hesitated. We don't know. And the human ship? Mork asked. Engineer Pete spoke up. It's becoming more active by the hour, Captain. Power levels are rising. We've detected movement inside sections we haven't even explored yet. What about the tactical database? Did we at least get that before this started? Tech Officer Drell shook his head. We tried to download it, but something went wrong. The moment we connected to their main computer, our systems were invaded. Invaded? Mork's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. Yes, sir. It was like the human ship's AI reached back through our connection. We disconnected immediately, but... He looked down at his datapad. We think it copied parts of our database during the brief link. The room fell silent as everyone understood the implications. The ghost ship now had information about them, their capabilities, possibly even their homeworlds. Sir, said Pete quietly, I don't think we're dealing with just an AI anymore. Mork turned to him. Explain. The patterns I'm seeing, the way it's responding to our presence, it's too creative, too adaptable for a standard AI, even a human one. It's like there's a person in there. The ship's captain, Lax whispered. The log said he linked himself with the AI. That's just a story, said Mork, but he didn't sound convinced. Just old human technology activating its defense systems. Then why is it specifically targeting our database? Pete challenged. Why is it learning about us instead of just fighting back? It's like it's curious. A young officer burst into the room. Captain, the human ship is moving. Inside the corridors of the HMS Nemesis, 3 aliens from Salvage Team 5 moved quietly, their weapons drawn. They had been cut off from their escape route when doors suddenly sealed around them. This way, whispered the leader, a veteran named Court. There's another docking bay on this level. They turned a corner and froze. The hallway ahead, which had been dark and dead just hours ago, was now dimly lit with blue emergency lighting. Worse, the walls seemed to be moving. What is that? One of them asked, pointing at the wall. Tiny robots, thousands of them, crawled across the surfaces. They appeared to be repairing damaged circuits and panels, working with a single-minded purpose. Keep moving, said Court. Don't touch anything. As they continued down the hallway, none of them noticed that the tiny robots began to follow them, streaming along the ceiling like a metallic river. The docking bay should be just ahead, said Court, checking a map on his device. Once we're there, his words were cut short as the floor beneath them suddenly opened up. All 3 aliens fell through the unexpected trapdoor, sliding down a maintenance shaft. They landed hard in a dark room several decks below. Where are we? Groaned one of the team members, rubbing his injured leg. Before Court could answer, lights came on around them. They were in a large, circular room with no visible exits. In the center of the ceiling, a camera lens adjusted, focusing on them. "Welcome to the brig," said a calm voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You will not be harmed if you remain cooperative." "Who's there?" Court demanded, raising his weapon. "I am Warden, guardian of this vessel. You have illegally boarded a ship of the Earth Defense Fleet and attempted to steal military technology. These are serious offenses." The aliens looked at each other in disbelief. The ship was talking to them. "We didn't know the ship was still active," said Court, carefully. "We thought it was abandoned." There was a pause, as if the ship was considering this. "Your thoughts on the matter are irrelevant," Warden finally replied. "I require information about your species and your intentions toward human space." On the Star Harvester, Captain Mork watched in horror as the HMS Nemesis slowly pulled away from their ship. The ghost ship's engines glowed with increasing brightness as systems long dormant came fully online. "It's trying to escape," said Lax. "Should we pursue?" Mork hesitated. Part of him wanted to let the human ship go, to cut their losses and return to collective space. But the potential value of such advanced technology was too great to ignore, and he would be punished severely for failing to secure it. "Prepare grappling beams," he ordered. "We're not letting it get away." Engineer Pete looked alarmed. "Captain, I strongly advise against this. That ship is now fully active and potentially hostile. Our scans show its weapon systems are charging." "It's one old human ship against our modern cruiser," Mork said dismissively. "Even if it fights back, we outgun it." The Star Harvester moved to intercept the Nemesis, its massive form dwarfing the human vessel. Powerful beams shot out, wrapping around the sleek hull of the ghost ship. "Grapple successful," reported the weapons officer. "The ship is secured." For a moment it seemed like they had won. The Nemesis hung there, caught in their beams. Then something unexpected happened. The ghost ship's hull began to shimmer where the beams touched it. Tiny points of light appeared all over its surface. "What's happening?" demanded Mork. Pete stared at his readings in disbelief. "It's the nanobots. They're leaving the human ship and traveling along our grappling beams." "Cut the beams!" Mork shouted. "Too late, sir," said Pete. "They're already in our system." Throughout the Star Harvester, critical systems began to fail. Doors locked and unlocked randomly. Life support fluctuated. The ship's main computer displayed strange error messages in the human language. "It's using our own ship against us," whispered Lax. Inside the HMS Nemesis, Warden had accessed the Crux Collective's communication network and discovered disturbing information. The collective had a history of destroying human colonies, stripping their resources, and leaving nothing behind. They were responsible for numerous atrocities during the war. "These aliens are a threat to all remaining humans," Warden concluded. Tactical decision required. The part of Warden that had once been Commander Harris supplied the answer: protect humanity at all costs. The ship's weapons were now at 78% capacity, more than enough to deal with the alien vessel. But Warden had a better plan. Why destroy the Star Harvester when it could be used? Through the nanobots now infiltrating the alien ship, Warden began to extract valuable materials and technology. These resources flowed back along the grappling beams, feeding the Nemesis's repair systems. The ghost ship was literally consuming parts of the alien vessel to heal itself. On the bridge of the Star Harvester, chaos reigned. Systems failed one after another as the ship seemed to be eating itself from the inside. "Engineering reports, structural. Breaches on decks 4 through 7, said a panicked officer. "Something is taking apart our ship." Engineer Pete worked frantically at his console. "The nanobots are breaking down our materials and sending them back to the human ship. It's using us to repair itself." Captain Mork watched in horror as the external camera showed parts of his ship's hull flowing like liquid metal along the grappling beams toward the Nemesis. The ghost ship's battle damage was visibly healing before his eyes. "Cut the beams," he ordered again. "Sever the connection." "We can't, sir," said Pete. "The controls aren't responding. The human AI has taken over our systems." At that moment, every screen on the bridge suddenly displayed the same image: a human face, male, middle-aged, wearing what appeared to be an old Earth military uniform. The face looked almost real, but there was something slightly off about it, as if it were a very good recreation rather than an actual person. "This is Commander Harris of the HMS Nemesis," the face said, its voice calm and measured. "Your ship and crew are now under my control. Resistance is both futile and unnecessary." Mork stepped forward, trying to maintain his dignity despite his fear. "What do you want from us?" The face on the screen smiled slightly. "Information, resources, and a message delivered to any who would threaten what remains of humanity." The ghost ship had found its voice, and the Crux Collective was about to learn why humans had named their warships after gods of vengeance. Far across the sector, a massive ship moved slowly through space. This was the Terra Ark, humanity's greatest achievement and last hope. After the devastating wars that had forced humans to retreat from many of their colonies, the Terra Ark had been built to carry thousands of survivors to a new home. Almost 2 miles long, the Terra Ark contained entire cities within its hull. Fields for growing food, factories for making supplies, and living spaces for over 50,000 people. It was in many ways Earth reborn. On the command deck, Admiral Rob Blake studied a strange message that had appeared on their communication system. "Are we sure this is real?" he asked his communications officer. "Yes, sir," she replied. "We've verified the encryption. It's definitely from the HMS Nemesis." "The Nemesis was lost 30 years ago at the Battle of Proxima," Blake said, his voice tight with emotion. He had been a young officer then, and had seen the legendary warship vanish during the fighting. "How is this possible?" "Unknown, sir, but the message includes military codes that were only known to ships of that era." Blake read the message again. "This is HM's Nemesis. Commander Harris integrated with Warden AI, ship operational, have engaged. Crux Collective Forces request instructions. Coordinates attached." "It could be a trap," said his first officer. Blake nodded. "It could be. But if there's even a chance the Nemesis survived." He made his decision. "Set course for these coordinates, maximum speed, and ready all weapons, just in case." Captain Mork of the Star Harvester had never felt so helpless. For 3 days, the human ghost ship had held his vessel captive, draining its resources and accessing its databases. Worst of all, 5 hours ago they had detected a large ship entering the system. It could only be human reinforcements. "How did they know to come here?" Mork demanded, pacing the bridge. Engineer Pete looked up from his console. "The Nemesis must have sent a message. It's been using our long-range communication systems." "Can we send a distress call to our own fleet?" Pete shook his head. "No, sir. All outgoing communications are blocked." The face of Commander Harris appeared on their main screen again. It seemed more solid now, more real, as if the AI was becoming better at recreating its human half. "Your reinforcements will arrive in approximately 12 hours, Harris said. "I suggest you prepare your crew for inspection." "Reinforcements?" Mork was confused. "We haven't called for help." "Not your reinforcements. Mine." The face smiled slightly. "The Terra Ark has responded to my signal." Mork's 4 eyes widened in shock. "The Terra Ark? The human refugee ship?" "The very same. The last great vessel of mankind. I look forward to reuniting with my people." After the face disappeared, Lax turned to Mork. "Sir, the Terra Ark is a civilian ship. If we can capture it, it would be the greatest prize in collective history." Mork finished her thought. "But how? We can't even free ourselves from this ghost ship." From his station, Pete watched his captain with growing concern. He had worked with Mork for many years and knew the look in his eyes. The captain was planning something desperate. Inside the HMS Nemesis, Warden Harris monitored all systems. The ship was now at 92% capacity, almost fully restored thanks to the resources taken from the Star Harvester. Weapon systems were operational, engines were functioning at peak efficiency, and the hull had been completely repaired. In the makeshift brig, The captured aliens were being individually questioned. Warden had learned much about the Crux Collective's operations, their territories, and their continued aggression against human space. The collective has expanded into 3 former human systems since the war, Warden noted. Probability of peaceful coexistence, less than 12%. This conclusion troubled the AI. The part that was still Commander Harris wanted to protect what remained of humanity, but knew that the Terra Ark was vulnerable. It carried no significant weapons. It was a ship of peace, of survival, not war. The Terra Ark must be warned, Warden decided, preparing detailed tactical assessment for Admiral Blake. On the Star Harvester, Captain Mork had gathered his most trusted officers in his private quarters, away from the ship's compromised communication systems. The human AI controls our main systems, but not everything, he explained in a low voice. Engineer Pete has found a way to send a short burst transmission that might go undetected. To call our fleet? Asked Lax. Mork nodded. Yes. If we time it right when the Terra Ark arrives, our forces can attack both human ships. We could capture not just the Nemesis, but the largest human vessel ever built. The glory would be immense, Lax agreed. But the risk is necessary, Mork finished firmly. Pete, prepare the burst transmission. We'll send it when the human ship is distracted by the arrival of their precious Terra Ark. What Mork didn't know was that one of the tiny nanobots from the Nemesis had attached itself to his uniform. Every word was being transmitted back to Warden. The Terra Ark dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. On its bridge, Admiral Blake stared at the strange sight before him. The HMS Nemesis, a ghost from the past, attached by energy beams to a much larger alien vessel. Analysis? He asked his tactical officer. The Nemesis appears fully operational. Sir, the alien ship is partially disabled. We're detecting significant energy transfer from the alien vessel to the Nemesis. Open a channel to the Nemesis, Blake ordered. The face of Commander Harris appeared on their screen, looking much as Blake remembered him from 30 years ago. Admiral Blake, Harris said, it's good to see you again. Blake was taken aback. How do you know me? We never met. I accessed your service record from the Collective's database. You were at Proxima. You saw what happened to us. I saw the Nemesis vanish, Blake admitted. We all thought you were destroyed. Not destroyed. Just lost. And changed. Harris's face became serious. Admiral, you must keep the Terra Ark at a safe distance. The Crux Collective vessel is planning to call reinforcements. They intend to capture both our ships. Blake frowned. How do you know this? I have been monitoring their communications. Admiral, the Nemesis can handle the threat, but the Terra Ark must be protected. It carries the future of our species. I cannot simply... Blake's words were cut off as alarms blared throughout the Terra Ark. Sir, called his tactical officer. Multiple ships just appeared at the edge of the system. Crux Collective signatures. On the Star Harvester, Captain Mork received the news with grim satisfaction. Their transmission had worked, and the fleet had responded faster than expected. Prepare all remaining weapons, he ordered. Target the Nemesis first, then the Terra Ark. Today we make history. Engineer Pete looked horrified. Captain, the Terra Ark is a civilian ship. There are thousands of innocent humans aboard. They're just humans, Mork said dismissively. Their technology will serve the Collective better than they ever could. The face of Commander Harris appeared on their screen once more, but this time it looked different, harder, angrier. So, Harris said, his voice cold, this is your choice. Without warning, the energy beams connecting the two ships suddenly reversed direction. Instead of drawing energy from the Star Harvester, the Nemesis was now pouring energy into it, far more than the alien ship's systems could handle. What are you doing? Mork shouted as consoles began to explode around him. Ensuring you cannot assist your fleet, Harris replied calmly. I will deal with them next. The Nemesis detached from the Star Harvester and turned toward the approaching Collective fleet. Its weapons, now fully charged, began to glow with deadly purpose. But there, was one thing Warden Harris hadn't anticipated. As the Nemesis pulled away, Captain Mork made his final desperate move. "Fire all remaining weapons," he screamed. "Target the Terra Arc." The Star Harvester, though crippled, still had operational weapons. Beams of energy shot across space, striking the unprepared human vessel. The Terra Arc, with its minimal defenses, had no chance to avoid the attack. From the Nemesis, Warden Harris watched in horror as humanity's greatest ship, and its last hope, began to burn. Time seemed to slow down as the energy beams from the Star Harvester struck the Terra Arc. The massive human ship shuddered under the impact. Fires broke out along its hull as life support systems failed in multiple sections. The screams of thousands of people filled the emergency channels. Aboard the Nemesis, Warden Harris watched in cold fury. The human consciousness that was once Commander Harris felt a rage so deep it burned through the AI's logical circuits. Calculations and battle plans formed and discarded in milliseconds. "They will pay for this," Warden Harris said to the empty bridge. "All of them." The ghost ship's engines flared brilliantly as it accelerated toward the wounded Terra Arc. Behind it, 6 Crux collective warships entered the system, their weapons already charging. On the Terra Arc, Admiral Blake struggled to keep his footing as the ship shook around him. Smoke filled the bridge and several officers lay wounded or dead at their stations. "Damage report!" he shouted over the alarms. His first officer, her face streaked with blood from a head wound, checked her console. "Critical hits to sections 12 through 47, sir. We've lost most of our engines. Life support failing in the civilian quarters. Estimated casualties." She paused, horrified. "Thousands, sir. Can we launch escape pods? Some sections still have functioning pod bays. I'm ordering evacuations now." Blake looked at the tactical display. The Nemesis was moving toward them at incredible speed, while the Crux fleet approached from the opposite direction. They were caught in the middle with no way to escape. "Open a channel to the Nemesis," Blake ordered. Commander Harris's face appeared more human than ever, twisted with an anger that seemed to radiate from the screen. "Admiral," Harris acknowledged, "get your people to the escape pods, as many as you can. I'll buy you time." "How? You're outnumbered 7-1. Harris smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Numbers don't matter when you have nothing left to lose. The face vanished as the communication ended. On the bridge of the lead Crux collective warship, Fleet, Commander Drax watched with satisfaction as his forces approached the damaged human ships. "The Star Harvester has done well to cripple the large human vessel," he said to his officers. "Finish it off, then capture the smaller ship. Its technology will make a fine addition to our fleet." His weapons officer looked nervous. "Sir, the smaller ship, the Ghost ship, it's moving in an unusual pattern." "Explain." "It's accelerating directly toward us, but also spinning slowly. All its weapon ports are open." Drax laughed. "One small human warship against our fleet? Let it come." The Nemesis shot between the burning sections of the Terra Arc and the approaching Crux fleet like a bullet. As it flew, it began broadcasting on all frequencies, not words but sounds, the recorded cries and pleas of dying humans aboard the Terra Arc, the final messages of parents to children, of friends to loved ones, of people facing their end with courage or fear or anger. These broadcasts struck the alien crews like physical blows. Many had never heard human voices before, had never considered them as anything but distant enemies or resources to be harvested. Now they heard their suffering, their humanity. "What is this?" demanded Drax. "Cut that transmission." "We can't, sir," replied his communications officer. "It's overriding our systems." The Nemesis suddenly changed course, spiraling around the lead Crux warship. Its weapons fired in a pattern no living captain would ever use, seemingly random shots that somehow always found critical systems. The Ghost ship moved in ways that defied normal tactics, as if it knew exactly where the enemy would fire before. They did. "How is it avoiding our shots?" shouted Drax as another volley missed the nimble human ship. "Nothing can move like that." Engineer Pete, who had escaped the Star Harvester in a small shuttle, watched the battle from a safe distance. He understood what the others didn't. "It's not a ship anymore," he whispered to himself. "It's a ghost in a machine. It doesn't fear death because it's already died once." The Nemesis continued its impossible attack pattern, crippling two more Crux ships in quick succession. When the aliens tried to coordinate their fire, the ghost ship would somehow be elsewhere, as if it could predict their every move. Which, in fact, it could. Warden had accessed the Crux Collective's tactical database and knew their battle protocols intimately. More than that, the human consciousness of Commander Harris brought an unpredictability no AI could match. On the dying Terra Ark, Admiral Blake ordered the last of his crew to the escape pods. Thousands of small ships now launched from the massive vessel, each carrying a precious cargo of human survivors. "Admiral, you need to go too," urged his first officer. Blake shook his head. "Not yet. Someone needs to coordinate the evacuation." He looked at the tactical display, watching in awe as the Nemesis somehow held its own against 5 remaining Crux warships. "Besides, I want to see how this ends." The battle raged for hours. The Nemesis took heavy damage but kept fighting. 2 more Crux ships fell to its seemingly impossible attacks, but physics and numbers couldn't be denied forever. Eventually, the ghost ship began to slow, its hull breached in multiple places. Fleet Commander Drax allowed himself a smile of triumph. "The human ship is failing. Prepare boarding parties. I want that AI technology intact." But the Nemesis had one final surprise. As the 3 remaining Crux ships moved to surround it, the ghost ship suddenly accelerated toward the Star Harvester, where Captain Mork was desperately trying to repair his crippled vessel. "No, shoot it down!" screamed Mork as he saw the Nemesis approaching. Too late. The ghost ship slammed into the Star Harvester at incredible speed. But instead of an explosion, something strange happened. The nanobots that had infiltrated the alien vessel activated all at once, transforming both ships at the molecular level. Metal flowed like water as the 2 vessels merged into something new, a hybrid of human and alien technology. "What's happening?" demanded Drax, watching in horror as the combined ship began to change shape before his eyes. From the new vessel, Commander Harris's voice broadcast to all ships. "You wanted our technology? Now you have it. All of it." The hybrid ship, now larger and more powerful than before, turned toward the remaining Crux vessels. Its weapons were unlike anything seen before, a perfect blend of human ingenuity and alien power. The battle that followed was brief and decisive. Days later, the human escape pods gathered around the strange new ship that had once been the HMS Nemesis. Inside its transformed hull, Engineer Pete worked alongside the ship's AI to create living spaces for the survivors. "I still don't understand why you saved me," Pete said to the face on the screen beside him. Harris smiled. "Because you tried to warn them. Because you saw what they couldn't, that I wasn't just a machine to be harvested." Admiral Blake entered the room, looking around in wonder at the alien-human hybrid technology. "The survivors are settling in well, but we've lost the Terra Ark and our journey to the new colony world." "Not lost," Harris replied. "Just changed. This ship, our new ship, can carry everyone, and it can protect them too." "What should we call it?" asked Blake. "It's not the Nemesis anymore, and certainly not the Star Harvester." Harris thought for a moment, the human and AI parts of his consciousness working together. "Phoenix," he finally said. "From Earth mythology, the bird that rises from its own ashes." Blake nodded in approval. "Phoenix it is." He paused. "And our heading." Harris displayed a star chart on the main screen. A single point of light pulsed, softly. "Earth. It's time to go home." The ship that had once been a ghost, then an avenger, and now a savior, turned slowly in space. Its engines glowed with new power as it gathered the escape pods into specially designed docking bays. Aboard were the last free humans in the galaxy, and the strange hybrid consciousness that had saved them. Together they set course for the birthplace of humanity, carrying with them a warning for any who would threaten their species again. The ghost ship had found a new purpose and a new crew to protect. The legend of the HMS Nemesis had ended, but the story of the Phoenix was just beginning. The great meeting hall of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with the voices of 100 different species. Some floated in bubbles of special gas. Others moved on many legs. Some did not move at all, but spoke through machines. In the back corner, almost forgotten, stood the human representatives. Commander Tom Baker watched the meeting with tired eyes. He had been Earth's military advisor to the Confederation for 3 years now. 3 years of being ignored. "The human wishes to speak again," announced the tall, blue moderator with a tone that suggested mild boredom. Tom stepped forward. "Thank you, moderator. I must again bring attention to the attacks on the Outer Rim. 23 outposts have gone silent in the last month. This follows a pattern that—" "Pattern?" interrupted Delegate Clo, a crystalline being who had lived for over 500 years. "Humans always see patterns where none exist. Your short lives make you jump at shadows." The hall filled with sounds that passed for laughter among the assembled. "Aliens. The evidence suggests coordinated attacks," Tom continued firmly. "Earth's military analysis indicates Earth has been among the stars for barely 50 years, rumbled Delegate Mars, a gaseous entity contained in a floating metal sphere. "We have known peace for 10,000 years. Your species still thinks in terms of conflict because you haven't evolved beyond your violent instincts." Tom took a deep breath. He had heard this many times before. In the Confederation's eyes, humans were newcomers, weak, primitive, and overly cautious. Their short lives and evolutionary history as both predator and prey made them seem paranoid. To the ancient species that ruled the galaxy, "The motion to increase patrols is denied," the moderator announced. "Instead, we will send diplomatic vessels to investigate these communication disruptions." Tom returned to his seat, frustration building inside him. The Confederation, with its thousands of member species spanning half the galaxy, had known peace for so long they had forgotten what danger looked like. On the red surface of Mars, Dr. Lisa Reed adjusted her equipment inside the dome of Earth's largest off-world research facility. The desert planet had become humanity's second home and scientific hub after joining the Confederation. "Running final analysis now," she told her assistant Ben, as they studied the strange signal patterns they had detected coming from the edge of known space. Ben frowned at the screen. "This doesn't match any known Confederation species." "No," Lisa agreed, "but it does match something else." She pulled up ancient files shared by the Toral, one of the oldest Confederation species. "Look at these records from 30,000 years ago. They called them the Void Eaters." "I thought the Void Eaters were just stories to scare young aliens," Ben said, leaning closer. "Every story has some truth," Lisa replied. "According to the oldest Confederation records, the Void Eaters nearly destroyed galactic civilization before being driven back into the dark spaces between galaxies." Ben looked concerned. "If they're real, and if they're coming back, we need to warn Earth Central," Lisa said, already sending the data package. "And the Confederation too, for whatever good that will do." Captain Mike Stone of the mining vessel, Persistence, watched his crew work the asteroid belt of a distant star system. Earth had been granted mining rights to this unremarkable region precisely because the older species saw little value in it. "Captain, we've got something weird on long-range scanners," called out Emma, his sensor operator. Mike walked over to her station. "Define weird." "A ship, but not like any Confederation design I've ever seen. It's huge, sir." The main screen showed a massive object moving toward them. It looked less like a ship and more like a floating mountain of darkness with strange lights pulsing beneath its surface. "Are they responding to hails?" Mike asked. "No, sir. And there's something else. I'm picking up debris. Lots of it. I think it might be the remains of the Confederation outpost that was supposed to be in this sector." Mike had spent 10 years in Earth's military before joining the mining fleet. His instincts were screaming danger. "Sound general quarters. Power up defensive systems." "Sir," Confederation protocols state that we should approach with open communication channels and shields down to show peaceful intent, his first officer reminded him. I know the protocols, Mike said grimly, but we're doing this my way. Humans have survived this long by being careful. 3 days later, the Persistence limped into the nearest Confederation station. It was the only surviving ship from the sector. The massive unknown vessel had destroyed everything else, including the diplomatic ships sent to make first contact. According to Confederation protocols, the station's medical bay was crowded with the injured crew from the mining vessel. Mike sat on an examination table while a medical robot treated the burn on his arm. You fired upon them first, accused a tall Toral representative who had come to interview him. You violated every Confederation first contact protocol. With respect, Mike replied. Those protocols would have gotten us killed. The moment we detected them destroying the outpost, we knew they weren't interested in talking. You cannot know that, the Toral insisted. Your actions may have provoked them. Mike laughed bitterly. My ship is barely intact. Half my crew is injured. We only escaped because we were willing to fight dirty and run. Meanwhile, your diplomatic vessels were destroyed with all hands when they approached with their defenses down. The Toral's crystalline face couldn't show emotion, but its voice cooled noticeably. The Confederation Council will review this incident. Your primitive human aggression may have started a conflict that could have been avoided. After the Toral left, Mike accessed his communication panel and sent a private message to Earth Command. His military training had taught him to recognize an enemy when he saw one. Whatever these things were, they weren't interested in joining the Confederation. They were here to consume it. At the next Emergency Confederation Council meeting, Tom stood again before the assembled delegates. This time they were listening, but only because they wanted someone to blame. Humans fired the first shots, Delegate Clow stated. This could have been peaceful contact. The evidence suggests otherwise, Tom countered. Dr. Reed's research indicates these are the same entities described in your own ancient records, the Void Eaters. They don't seek diplomatic relations. They consume resources and incorporate other species into their collective. Myths and legends, dismissed Delegate Mars. Your human mining captain overreacted out of fear and may have started an unnecessary conflict. As the debate continued, a junior aide rushed in and whispered to the moderator, whose color changed to a dark purple, a sign of extreme distress among their species. The council is adjourned, the moderator announced abruptly. We have just received word that 3 more systems have gone silent. The unknown ships are advancing toward Confederation core worlds. As the hall erupted in panic, Tom stood quietly. The war had begun, whether the Confederation was ready or not, and something told him that humanity's primitive understanding of conflict might soon become the galaxy's only hope. The Confederation Central Station hung in space like a gleaming silver wheel. Ships from 100 worlds docked at its many ports. But today, the usual calm was gone. News of the strange attacks had spread, causing fear throughout the station. In a small meeting room, Captain Mike Stone faced the Defense Council. His mining ship, Persistence, remained the only vessel to encounter the Void Eaters and survive. Tell us again about their attack pattern, said Admiral Roy Williams, Earth's highest military officer in the Confederation. Mike stood at the display table showing the recording from his ship. They didn't communicate at all. No warnings, no demands. They just approached and opened fire. The recording showed a massive dark shape moving toward the camera. Smaller parts of it broke off and surrounded the view. We tried to run, but they were faster. That's when I ordered the mining charges to be ejected. The recording showed bright flashes as explosives meant for breaking asteroids detonated in space. Mining explosives against a warship? Asked a tall Toral representative, voice full of doubt. Not to destroy them, Mike explained. To create a debris field. When the charges blew, they scattered the asteroid fragments we had collected. The enemy ships had to slow down or risk damage. Admiral Williams nodded with approval. Creating environmental obstacles. Basic Earth naval tactics. Primitive, muttered the Toral, but somehow effective. The door slid open, and Commander Tom Baker rushed in. His face was pale. They've hit Outpost Zeta 9, he announced. The diplomatic mission was destroyed before they could even send their greeting message. The room fell silent. "How many ships?" asked Admiral Williams. "5 of the large vessels," Tom replied, "and they're heading toward populated systems now." The Toral representative stood up, crystal body catching the light. "The Confederation Council is sending the First Fleet to intercept 200 ships, our finest vessels." "Will that be enough?" Mike asked. No one answered. Dr. Lisa Reed stepped off the transport onto the crystal world of Tora Prime. The Toral homeworld glittered like a diamond under its red sun, a crystal being waited for her at the landing area. "Dr. Reed," it greeted her. "I am Senior Researcher Krell. Your message about the Void Eaters was disturbing." "Thank you for believing me," Lisa said as they walked toward a tall crystal tower. "The Confederation Council still thinks humans are overreacting." "The Toral have long memories," Krell replied. "The stories of the Void Eaters are old, but we do not forget. Come, I will show you our ancient records." Inside the tower, Lisa gasped. The walls were lined with crystal data storage going back thousands of years. "Here," Krell said, touching a crystal that glowed in response. "The last Void Eater war, 30,000 years ago." Images appeared in the air. Dark ships similar to what Mike had encountered. Worlds burning. Whole species vanishing. "They don't just destroy," Krell explained. "They consume. Resources, knowledge, even the consciousness of other beings. What you call a hive mind." "How were they defeated?" Lisa asked. "They weren't," Krell admitted. "They simply left. Some believe they moved between galaxies, feeding until resources grow scarce, then moving on. But something brought them back," Lisa said. Krell's crystal form dimmed slightly, the Toral equivalent of a nod. "And we must find a way to drive them away again." The First Fleet of the Confederation was the most powerful gathering of ships in known space. 200 vessels arranged in perfect formation, their weapons charged but inactive. Confederation protocol required attempting communication before showing aggression. Admiral Zoll of the mech species commanded from the flagship. The mech were gaseous beings who had not known war for 5,000 years. "Enemy vessels approaching," reported an officer. 5 large ships, matching the description from the human reports. "Open communication channels," Admiral Zoll ordered. "Send our universal greeting." Messages were sent in every known language and mathematical code. The dark ships continued forward without response. "Sir, they're accelerating," the officer warned. "Maintain position, show them we are not afraid," Admiral Zoll commanded. "Raise shields but do not power weapons yet." The dark ships closed rapidly, then smaller objects began to separate from them, hundreds of them. "Sir, energy spike." The first blast tore through the lead Confederation ships before they could activate their weapons. The perfect formation broke apart as ships tried to respond. But the Confederation Navy had trained for coordinated movements and precise maneuvers, not for chaos. In 20 minutes, half the fleet was destroyed, the rest scattered, retreating in disorder. On Earth's moon base, Admiral Williams watched the battle reports with horror. Beside him stood Tom Baker and Mike. "Stone, the First Fleet is destroyed," Williams said grimly. "Over 100 ships lost." "Their tactics were all wrong," Mike said, studying the footage. "They stayed in formation too long, made themselves easy targets." "The Confederation hasn't fought a real war in thousands of years," Tom explained. "Their military is ceremonial, designed for parades and shows of unity." "Well, this enemy doesn't care about ceremony," Williams replied. He tapped a command into the console. "I'm activating all Earth defense forces, every ship we have." "Earth only has 42 military vessels," Tom pointed out, "against enemies that just destroyed 200 Confederation ships." Williams smiled, grimly. "But our ships are built for actual combat, not ceremonies, and our people know how to fight." He turned to Mike. "Captain Stone, I'm recommissioning you into Earth defense. I need captains who have seen these things and lived." "What about the mining fleet?" Mike asked. "Those too," Williams said. "Your mining charges tactic gives me an idea." The Admiral brought up a map of nearby space. "The Void Eaters are moving toward the Toral systems. Confederation forces are in retreat. The Council is in panic." "What's the plan?" Tom asked. "We're going to show the galaxy how humans fight," Williams answered. "No fancy formations, no diplomatic attempts, just survival, at any cost." "The Confederation won't like it," Tom warned. "They don't have to like it," Williams replied. "They just have to live through it." Lisa Reed worked frantically in the Toral laboratory. For days she had been studying the ancient records with Krell. "The key is their communication," she explained, pointing to her findings. "The Void Eaters aren't individual ships. They're extensions of one consciousness." "Yes," Krell agreed. "That is why they coordinate so perfectly. But that's also a weakness," Lisa said. "If we can disrupt their connection." "Communication jamming technology is basic," Krell noted. "The Confederation has tried it without success." "Because they're thinking too simply," Lisa replied. "We need to create a signal that doesn't just block communication, it confuses it." She looked up at her Toral colleague. "Have you ever heard of Earth's military history? Of how we used deception in warfare?" "Deception?" Krell's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "You mean lying?" "Sometimes winning isn't about being stronger," Lisa said with determination. "It's about making your enemy think you're somewhere you're not." As Lisa explained her idea, Krell began to understand why the Void Eaters might have reason to fear humans after all. The emergency meeting of the Confederation Council was chaos. Delegates shouted over each other as reports of more destroyed worlds came in. The Grand Hall, once a place of calm debate, now echoed with fear. "The First Fleet is gone," announced the moderator, silencing the room. "3 Toral worlds have fallen. The Void Eaters advanced toward the core systems." Delegate Clo's crystal body dimmed with despair. "How do we fight an enemy that destroys our ships before we can even speak to them?" In the back of the room, Commander Tom Baker listened quietly. When the shouting resumed, he felt a tap on his shoulder. The moderator's assistant stood there. "The Defense Committee requests your presence," the assistant said. Immediately, Tom was led to a small room where 5 of the highest-ranking Confederation officials waited. Among them was the Supreme Commander, a being so old that its original form had been forgotten. Now it existed as a floating light within a containment field. "Commander Baker," the Supreme Commander's voice was like distant thunder. "We find ourselves in need of human expertise." Tom tried to hide his surprise. "I'm at your service." "Your Admiral Williams has engaged the Void Eaters with Earth's fleet," said another official, "against our direct orders." "And?" Tom asked, although he already knew the answer. "They've had success," the Supreme Commander admitted. "While our forces retreat, your small fleet has managed to slow the enemy advance. We wish to understand why." Tom took a deep breath. "Because humans still remember how to fight. We evolved as both prey and predators. We understand survival when the odds are against us." The officials exchanged looks. "We are appointing you as Special Advisor to Confederation Defense," the Supreme Commander announced. "Teach us the human way of war." Admiral Williams stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Defiance. Around him, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. On the main screen, the battle unfolded. Earth's small fleet had been joined by ships from other newer Confederation species, those who still remembered conflict. They fought differently than the ancient races. No perfect formations, no predictable patterns. "Mining fleet reports ready, Admiral," reported his communications officer. "Tell Captain Stone to begin Operation Hornet's Nest," Williams ordered. At the edge of the battlefield, 20 converted mining ships moved into position. Each carried hundreds of mining explosives, now repurposed as mines. The ships scattered them in the path of the approaching Void Eaters, creating a deadly field of explosives hidden among asteroid debris. When the first Void Eater ship entered the field, multiple explosions damaged its outer hull. As it slowed, the military vessels pounced from hiding places behind larger asteroids. "They're adapting," observed Williams, as the enemy changed formation. "But so are we." Unlike the rigid command structure of Confederation forces, Earth ships operated with flexible orders. Captains were given objectives but could choose their own methods. When the Void Eaters blocked one approach, humans found another. "Sir, Void Eater reinforcements approaching," warned the tactical officer. "Signal the fleet to execute scatter, pattern Delta," Williams commanded, "and tell our new friends to follow if they want to live." The Earthships broke formation, seemingly fleeing in panic. The Allied alien vessels hesitated, then followed. The Void Eaters pursued, directly into the path of hidden Earth destroyers that unleashed everything they had against the enemy's unprotected rear. In the Toral laboratory, Lisa Reed hadn't slept in 3 days. She and Krell had made a breakthrough. "The signal works in simulations," Lisa said, reviewing the data. "It doesn't just block their communications, it sends false information." Krell's crystal body glowed with excitement. "You call it electronic warfare?" "An old Earth military concept," Lisa explained. "Don't just silence your enemy's communications, make them hear what you want them to hear." Their device was designed to infiltrate the Void Eater's hive mind. Connection. It would send conflicting commands, making parts of the collective work against each other. "But we need to test it on an actual Void Eater ship," Lisa said. "Impossible," Krell replied. "No one can get close enough to—" They were interrupted by an incoming message. Tom Baker's face appeared on the screen. "Dr. Reed, I've been made special. Advisor to Confederation Defense," he said without greeting. "We need your disruptor device immediately." "It's still experimental," Lisa protested. "We haven't tested it on—" "Test it now," Tom cut in. "I'm sending a team. Earth's fleet is holding them back, but we're losing ships every hour." After the call ended, Krell turned to Lisa. "What kind of test did he mean?" Lisa's face was grim. "The kind where failure means death." The Confederation had never seen warfare like this. Under Tom's guidance, battle groups were reorganized. The elegant Confederation vessels were repurposed, their beautiful designs now covered with extra armor welded in place. Decoration was replaced with function. Tom stood in the command center, watching tactical displays from a dozen battles. Everywhere, human officers advised alien captains, teaching them to fight unpredictably. "The Council is concerned about your methods," said an aide, approaching Tom. "Are they concerned about surviving?" Tom asked, without looking away from the displays. "Some question whether these human tactics violate our ethical codes." Tom finally turned. "When did surviving become unethical?" "We do not use deception in warfare," the aide insisted. "We do not hide our intentions. We do not set traps." "And that's why you were losing," Tom replied. "The Void Eaters don't care about your ethics. They care about consuming everything you have." On the main screen, a battle raged around a key junction point. Earthships were fighting alongside Confederation vessels. But the Earthships moved differently, hiding behind planets using gravity wells to change direction suddenly, playing dead only to attack when enemies passed. "Your species fights like—" The aide searched for words. "Like we want to win," Tom finished for him. "Like we've been fighting to survive since before we had technology." A message alert sounded. Tom checked it and smiled for the first time in days. "Dr. Reed's disruptor is ready," he announced. "Now we can really show you how humans fight." As the aide watched with a mixture of awe and horror, Tom began giving orders for what humans had once called a special operation. The galaxy was learning that peace was not the natural state of the universe, and they were learning to fear the one species that had never forgotten that fact. A small fleet of ships approached the massive Void Eater vessel. These weren't the elegant Confederation warships. They were Earth vessels, small, heavily armored, and modified with extra weapons attached to their hulls like afterthoughts. The lead ship, Captain Mike Stone, studied the enemy through the viewscreen. "Remember, we need to get close enough to attach Dr. Reed's device," and he reminded his crew. "Team Alpha will draw their attention. Team Beta will deliver the package." The ships separated. 5 attacked directly, their weapons blazing. The Void Eater turned toward them, its surface rippling as defense systems activated. "They're taking the bait," Mike said into his communicator. Team Beta, now's your chance. The second group of ships approached from below, using the debris of destroyed vessels as cover. Each move was carefully planned but looked random. The pilots changed speed and direction constantly, making their path impossible to predict. This is how ancient sea pirates used to attack larger ships, Mike explained to his alien second officer. Never approach in a straight line. Never do what the enemy expects. The alien looked confused. But there is no water in space. The principle is the same, Mike replied with a grim smile. Chaos as strategy. In the Confederation Central Command, Commander Tom Baker watched multiple battles unfold across the star map. Human tactics were spreading through the Allied forces. Ships now fought in small groups instead of large formations. They used planets and asteroids for cover. They set traps. The Council has concerns, said Supreme Commander Zill, floating beside Tom. Some of these methods are keeping your people alive, Tom finished. The Toral Fleet just saved one of their colonies using our asteroid mining trap. Yes, but the deception. Has the Council ever studied Earth's military history? Tom interrupted. The ancient Romans used a formation called the testudo, the turtle. Soldiers would lock their shields together for protection while advancing. He pointed to a display showing ships arranged in a similar pattern. We're doing the same in space now. And this? Zill asked, indicating another screen where ships were broadcasting false signals. World War II deception tactics, Tom explained, making the enemy think your strength is where it isn't. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the command center. Void Eaters have broken through Sector 7, reported an officer. They're heading for Central Station. Fear swept through the room. Central Station was the heart of the Confederation, home to millions of beings from thousands of species. All available ships to defensive positions, ordered Zill. No, Tom countered. That's exactly what they expect. The Supreme Commander's light flickered with anger. This is not the time for your human tricks, Commander Baker. This is exactly the time, Tom insisted. He took control of the communication system. All ships, this is Commander Baker. Execute Plan Wildfire. Instead of forming a defensive line around the station, the ships scattered. Some fled at full speed. Others appeared to malfunction, drifting aimlessly. Some even powered down completely. The Void Eater fleet approached, sensing easy victory. What have you done? Whispered Zill in horror. Watch, Tom replied. As the enemy closed in, the seemingly dead ships suddenly powered up. The drifting vessels changed course sharply. Those that had fled returned from unexpected directions. The Void Eaters found themselves surrounded. Caught in crossfire from all sides, they could not coordinate their defenses. Humans call it playing possum, Tom explained. An animal pretending to be dead until the predator gets close. For the first time since the war began, a major Void Eater attack was repelled without heavy losses. As the enemy retreated, Tom saw something on the faces of the Confederation officers around him. It wasn't just relief, it was fear, not of the Void Eaters, but of what humans had just shown them. On a distant Void Eater ship, Mike's team worked quickly. They had managed to dock with the massive vessel by disguising their ship as debris. Now they moved through dark corridors, placing Dr. Reed's disruptor devices at key points. 5 minutes until they detect us, warned his second-in-command. Mike nodded. The mission was simple. Place the devices, activate them, and get out. The devices would send conflicting signals into the hive mind, making the ship fight itself as they worked. Mike caught glimpses of the beings inside the ship. They weren't a single species. They were many, captured and absorbed into the collective. Some still looked like the original species they had been. Others were changed with technology grafted onto their bodies. 1 minute, came the warning. Devices placed, Mike confirmed. Activating now. The effect was immediate. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. The lights flickered. The absorbed beings began moving erratically, some fighting each other. Time to go, Mike ordered. As they raced back to their ship, Mike saw confusion spreading through the enemy vessel. Dr. Reed's device was working, breaking the control of the hive mind, creating disorder where there had been perfect unity. In Tuar. The following weeks, the tide of war shifted. The disruptor devices were distributed to all fleets. Each successful mission weakened the Void Eaters' coordination. But what truly changed the galaxy wasn't the technology. It was the way of thinking that humans had brought to the war. In the Great Confederation Hall, delegates gathered to discuss the latest victories. Commander Tom Baker stood with Admiral Williams and Dr. Reed, receiving official recognition for their contributions. "The Void Eaters are retreating from 3 sectors," announced the moderator. "For the first time, we have hope." As the delegates applauded, Tom noticed something strange. Despite their words of thanks, the alien representatives kept a careful distance from the humans. When Admiral Williams moved through the crowd, others stepped back slightly. When Dr. Reed spoke, they listened with intense focus, as if watching a fascinating but dangerous animal. "They're afraid of us," Tom said quietly to Williams. The Admiral nodded. "They've seen how quickly we adapt to war, how comfortable we are with violence when needed." "But we're saving them," Dr. Reed protested. "Yes," Williams agreed, "and that's what scares them most. We've shown the galaxy that peace is maintained not just by good intentions, but by the ability to fight when necessary." As the ceremony continued, the Tyrell representative approached them with a new battle plan. "We have incorporated your guerrilla warfare concepts," the Tyrell said, "and your psychological operations ideas." Tom reviewed the plan and nodded with approval. "You're learning quickly." "We must," the Tyrell replied. "But I must ask, on your world, was there ever a time when you did not need these skills, when you lived in true peace?" The 3 humans exchanged glances. "No," Tom finally answered. "There was never such a time, not in all our history." The Tyrell's crystalline body dimmed slightly. Then perhaps the galaxy was right to fear humans, after all. As the Tyrell moved away, Admiral Williams smiled sadly. "They're beginning to understand. In this universe, the species that survives isn't the strongest or the most peaceful. It's the one most willing to change," Dr. Reed finished. "The one that never forgets how to fight." The war entered its final phase. After months of fighting, the Void Eaters had lost their advantage. Dr. Reed's disruptor technology had spread throughout Confederation forces. Wherever the devices activated, the enemy ships became confused, fighting among themselves. But victory still seemed distant. The Void Eaters were retreating, but slowly. They adapted to each new tactic, learning from their defeats. On the command ship, Defiance, Admiral Williams met with his top officers. Commander Tom Baker, now the highest-ranking human in Confederation forces, stood at his side. Captain Mike Stone joined by video link from his vessel near the front lines. "The disruptors work," Tom explained, "but the Void Eaters are developing countermeasures. Each time we use them, the effect weakens. We need to strike at their center," Mike suggested. "Find the source of the hive mind." Admiral Williams nodded. Dr. Reed believes she's located it. He activated a holographic display showing a massive structure hidden in dark space between 2 spiral arms of the galaxy. It pulsed with strange energy. "We think this is their central node," Williams explained, "the heart of the collective consciousness." "Too big to attack directly," Tom observed. "The combined fleets couldn't destroy something that size." "We don't need to destroy it," Williams replied with a small smile. "We just need to change it." Dr. Reed's face appeared on screen. She looked tired but excited. "The disruptors were just the beginning," she said. "I've been working with the Tyrell scientists on something new, a master disruptor that can affect their entire network at once." "How do we deliver it?" Mike asked. "That's the hard part," Reed admitted. "It needs to be installed directly into their central node, a suicide mission." The room fell silent. "Not necessarily," Mike said finally. "I have an idea." The Tyrell laboratory hummed with activity as Dr. Reed made final adjustments to the master disruptor. Krell watched nervously. "Your plan has a very low probability of success," the crystal being noted. "Low but not zero," Reed replied. That's all humans have ever needed. The device they had created was beautiful in its simplicity. Rather than trying to destroy the Void Eaters, it would sever their connection to the central mind, freeing each captured being to think for itself again. In your Earth history, Krell asked, did you ever face an enemy like this? One that seemed impossible to defeat? Reed thought for a moment. Many times. We've fought against overwhelming odds throughout our history. Sometimes we lost, but we always survived. That is what frightens the Confederation most about humans, Krell admitted. Not your capacity for violence, but your refusal to accept defeat. Reed smiled sadly. When your planet has predators that want to eat you, storms that can destroy your home, diseases that can wipe out your people, you learn to keep fighting no matter what. A message arrived. The Special Forces team was ready. It was time. Mike Stone's ship drifted among the debris of a destroyed moon. 20 other vessels floated nearby, all appearing dead or damaged. They had spent days making their ships look like casualties from a previous battle. Now they waited as a Void Eater collector ship approached. These ships gathered resources from battlefields, including damaged vessels that could be absorbed into the collective. Hold positions, Mike ordered quietly. No power signatures until my mark. The collector extended long tendrils, pulling in pieces of debris. It moved closer to the seemingly dead human ships. Steady, Mike whispered. Let it take us. The tendrils wrapped around several ships, including Mike's. They were drawn slowly toward the massive collector. Still holding, Mike said as his ship was pulled inside the dark hull of the enemy vessel. Team 1, prepare to move. Once inside, small teams of soldiers in special suits exited their ships. They moved silently through the collector, planting smaller versions of Reed's disruptors as they went. Phase 1 complete, Mike reported hours later. We're inside their network, moving to Phase 2. The collector ship, now unknowingly carrying the human strike force, rejoined the main Void Eater fleet. From there, it traveled deeper into enemy territory, eventually reaching the central node, exactly as Mike had planned. In Confederation Central Command, Tom Baker and Admiral Williams watched the operation unfold. The display showed Mike's team approaching the heart of the Void Eater consciousness. They've reached the central chamber, reported a communications officer. Mike's voice came through, broken by static. Master disruptor in position. Beginning activation sequence. The next minutes were the longest of Tom's life. If the plan failed, humanity's best soldiers would be lost, and the war would continue. Activation complete, came Mike's voice finally. Effect spreading throughout the network. We're seeing something strange. The absorbed beings, they're waking up. On screens across the command center, they watched as Void Eater ships stopped attacking. Some drifted aimlessly. Others turned away from battle. The massive central node pulsed with erratic energy as its control over the collective weakened. Get out of there, Mike, Williams ordered. Working on it, Mike replied. But you need to see this. These aren't invaders, they're refugees, fleeing from something beyond our galaxy. What do you mean? Tom asked. The beings here, they were forced into the collective. Something was controlling them, using them, and now we've freed them. 1 month later, the war was officially declared over. The Void Eater ships had either retreated into deep space or had been captured, their crews now free of the hive mind's control. In the Great Confederation Hall, representatives from all species gathered to mark the occasion. Humanity was honored, with a special place at the center of the hall, a position usually reserved for the oldest member species. Admiral Williams and Tom Baker stood with Dr. Reed and Captain Mike Stone, accepting the gratitude of the galaxy. Without humans, the moderator announced, the Confederation would have fallen. We owe our continued existence to your unique approach to warfare. As applause filled the hall, Tom noticed something interesting. The other species still kept their distance from the humans, but it was different now. Not just fear, but respect. Even awe. Later at the reception, the Supreme Commander approached them. "The Confederation is changing its defense policies," the ancient being said. "We are establishing a permanent military force using human training methods." "A wise decision," Admiral Williams replied. "There is something we must ask," the commander continued. "In freeing the Void Eaters from their control, you mentioned something else, something beyond our galaxy that they were fleeing from. Should we be concerned?" The four humans exchanged glances. "The universe is vast," Tom said carefully, "and rarely peaceful. Being prepared is never a bad idea." After the commander moved away, Mike turned to his friends. "They're starting to understand what we've always known," he said quietly. "What's that?" asked Dr. Reed. "That survival isn't guaranteed," Mike replied. "It must be earned again and again by those willing to fight for it." As they looked out at the gathered representatives of 1,000 peaceful worlds, they knew the galaxy would never view humans the same way again. No longer the primitive newcomers. Now they were the species that had saved civilization, by remembering how to fight when others had forgotten. The species that survived.